Further into Season 14, we expect to touch the following. All shotguns. Oh god, no, please, no. No, please. Alright, TWAB time. Everybody get ready. It is TWAB time. Alright, the TWAB, it is here. And it's a big change of pace from what we got last week. And before you ask, no, they didn't talk about or mention the transmog debacle at all. I'm guessing that'll probably be on the docket for a future week. I really wouldn't expect them to roll all that information back immediately after dropping it. But anyway, what we did get was a fairly big new Sandbox preview and information pertaining to the remade Vault of Glass raid. I'll talk about the latter real quick. Mark your calendars, we got a date, May 22nd at 10 a.m. Pacific time, so 1 p.m. Eastern. Vault of Glass launches in D2. If you've been worried that you'll have to grind out a lot of power to be raid ready on day one, well, I've got more good news for you. VOG is coming with contest mode for the first 24 hours, and the power level cap for the raid is 1300. I'll remind you that the current power cap in Season of the Chosen is 1310, meaning if you've already hit the power cap right now in Season 13, you're pretty much raid ready. If you're an MLG big elite baller and you're trying to go for worlds first, you should know that beating the raid one time actually isn't going to qualify you for worlds first. After beating the raid during contest mode, aka during the first 24 hours, you'll now have access to the new challenge mode in the directory, as well as a list of curated triumphs called Tempo's Edge. The first team that completes every challenge in Tempo's Edge will officially win the title of World's First and get that oh so sexy belt. Moving right along, Sandbox and weapon tuning. If you're interested in reading the, I don't want to call it fluff, prologue maybe, I guess, of what goes into what intended roles power weapons are supposed to have in D2, feel free to read that in the TWAB, but I'm gonna go ahead and bullet point out all the important stuff. Regarding particular weapon types, 450 RPM auto rifles have fallen slightly behind other auto rifles ever since the auto rifle tuning last year. So damage has been increased to be closer to the time to kill of other auto rifles. I was kind of worried about this change because I really don't want to ever go back to an AR meta ever again, but it's not that big of a deal. Headshot damage going up from 17 to 18. I don't think that'll be enough to hardcore swing the meta. Linear fusion rifles are getting a big change. Currently, nobody really uses them in PvE, mainly because almost every other power weapon out there, exotic or otherwise, does the exact same job, but better. Bungie mentions that while many people out there have been calling for LFRs to be moved out of the heavy slot, they don't want to do that because it'll likely create a whole host of problems. And I mean, come on. We bitched forever about RB on console, and yet you want more of that? You want more of that in PvP? F that right in the ear. Anyway, linear fusion rifles are getting a 15% buff to precision damage and a 20% buff to ammo reserves. That's actually a really insane change, to the point where linear fusion rifles may turn into an optimal PvE damage dealer overnight in Season 14. If you want to comb through your vault right now for potential future boss shredders, I'll remind you that the threaded needle can roll with Vorpal weapon. And on that note, might want to warm up your sleeper simulant. It's been waiting for this moment for a long time. Regular fusion rifles are getting a minor damage fall off tweak. It's not getting touched at all on the high end of the range bar, i.e. 100 range, but it is getting a 2 meter damage fall off buff on the low end. Not wild, but not bad. Now Bungie moves on to talk about particular weapon perks in need of a good tweak. Subsistence is getting its downside penalty, i.e. the reduced ammo reserves, completely removed. On top of that, submachine guns are now going to get more ammo back per takedown to match how much auto rifles are getting, 17% up from 10. That right there is not friggin' bad, and really good news for people with a well-rolled extraordinary rendition. High impact reserves and under pressure are both getting the same tweak. Previously, their trigger condition was based on projectile impact, i.e. the bonus won't take effect until you fire the weapon once. But they're gonna go ahead and change that, no longer a thing as long as the conditions are met. The perk will work as intended. Unrelenting, aka the health back but only after killing a certain number of dudes perk. It is now going to be easier to trigger in PvE and will immediately kick in if you bring down a major. On top of that, it heals 20% more than it did before. Sympathetic Arsenal isn't currently appealing enough for many players to dive on top of it, so they're giving it a little extra bonus. Now it'll give you an extra 20 reload on top of its current primary effect. Dragonfly will now work on heavy shanks and servitors and will now occur faster in game than it ever did before. Hip fire grip. This one might hear might be a killer. From Bungie, +1 degrees precision hip fire angle threshold and +1.2 times reticle stickiness fall-off distance. Essentially, they're buffing the aim assist hipfire cone by a smidge and making it a tad stickier over longer ranges. Bungie goes on to mention that even though 1 degree does not sound like much, the default aim assist cone angle is 2.5 at 0 aim assist and 3 degrees at 100 aim assist, and again, hipfire grip is getting a buff of 1 full extra degree. Right away, controller players out there, it is 100% time to dust off the last word, because remember, last word comes default with hipfire grip. I think it's a really safe prediction that in Season 14, last word is going to be a lot stronger than it is right now. Bet on it. Iron Grip, Iron Gaze, and Iron Reach, the 3 Iron Banner weapon perks that each come with a benefit and a drawback, are getting their drawbacks reworked. Each secondary stat penalty on those perks is getting brought in from -40 to -30. That's actually pretty sweet, and I'm kind of excited a few of my steady hand rolls I've been stashing away are about to get even better in Season 14. Osmosis and Elemental Capacitor are being upgraded to work with Stasis. Osmosis will now change your weapon to stasis damage when activated while on a stasis class, and Elemental Capacitor in the hands of a stasis player is going to give your weapon better recoil direction and a quicker movement speed while ADSing. I don't know about you, but that sounds awesome to me. The weapons I'm now probably most interested in to take advantage of the new Elemental Capacitor are probably going to be Timeline's Vertex, Stars and Shadow, Third Axiom, Dire Promise, and True Prophecy. It's all going to depend on how much quicker you'll be able to move when ADSing. If it's a substantial amount, then yeah, count me in. The recoil direction thing will probably come more into play for me for the pulse and fusion rifles. Moving on, no distractions. The time for the perk to activate is going down from 1.5 seconds to 1 second flat, and incoming flinch reduction is going up from 30 to 35%. Not too shabby. There's one exotic weapon in particular that's going to take big advantage of that. More on that in a minute. Celerity and Bottomless Grief were already covered in another TWAB, but the TLDR there is that Celerity will now always give an extra 20 to handling and reload in addition to the triggered effect, and Bottomless Grief will now always give 30 to the magazine in addition to the triggered effect. Thresh, no change there. The perk wasn't working properly before in PvP, but that's not a problem anymore. I made a video covering the effects of Thresh if you want to check that out. And now we come to weapon mods. Adept Mag and Adept Targeting are getting the same treatment as the Iron Banner perks. Secondary penalties are being toned down from -20 to -15. Also, they're fixing the problem where Adept Mag was not giving extra reserves when put on a sword. Adept Counterbalance is getting even more recoil direction, but I'm still probably not going to use it. Get rid of the range penalty, and yeah, then we'll talk. Mida Multi-Tool is getting a big change next season. Outlaw is being yoinked right off and being replaced with the newly buffed No Distractions, meaning that yeah, Mida is getting a big buff to shrugging off incoming flinch. Now, I don't have a lot of experience rocking Mida on mouse and keyboard, but it does feel really good on controller already. Be on the lookout for a big bump in Mida players next season for sure. Before closing out the TWAB, Bungie mentions that shotguns are on their radar, and they mean beyond the Fellwinter's Lie. Nothing to report yet, more on that later. Also, with the upcoming nerf to 120 RPM hand cannon range, they do expect a big surge in Dead Man's Tale, which I feel is insane on mouse and keyboard, but only, on controller. According to Bungie, they didn't want to squeeze it in with all the other changes in Season 14, so more on that later, but it is coming. And finally, fusion rifles, yeah, they'll F around with them if they need to. And there you go, quick TLDR, we got Vault of Glass on May 22nd. Linear fusion rifles might become cracked in PvE, so break out your sleeper or any other fusion you feel good about. Last Word might potentially be ready to break out hardcore in PvP, and likewise for the Mida Multi-Tool. If I get more information or if I feel there are any other weapons in particular you should be keeping your eyes on, I'll be sure to let you know. Really interested in that Elemental Capacitor change, depending on how strong the buff is. I guess time will tell. Quick reminder that the new season drops on May 11th, so all the changes will probably be happening then. If you found today's video summary helpful, let me know. Do the like thing, do the subscribe thing, check out my Twitch channel, my Patreon, Twitter, OnlyFans, Tinder, Grindr, yada 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 yada. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.